Hey guys, and welcome back to FPL TV. If you're interested in competing for more than just bragging rights this season, then allow me to introduce you to the brand new FPL TV Cup. This season, I'll be running a new league every single month with the chance to win some excellent FPL related prizes. Each month, the winner of the league will receive a shout out on the FPL TV channel, a limited edition t-shirt and mug, a 1-year subscription to Fantasy Football Hub with access to extensive Opta data, a copy of the excellent book Wasting Your Wildcard, and most importantly of all, you can get your hands on this, the prestigious and personally engraved FPL TV trophy. If you think you've got what it takes to win, then head on over to patreon.com/FPLTV and get your team signed up now for August. The first cup begins from Gameweek 1, and I'll leave a link below to find out more. Good luck to those that enter, and let's now get on to my current FPL draft. Warning, this video contains team selection and captain choices which some viewers may find offensive. With 3 weeks still to go before the all-important Gameweek 1 deadline, I figured now's a good time to talk you guys through how my draft is currently looking to start the season. With lots of transfers still to be made in this window, and with quite a few players yet to be added to the game, this is of course a draft that's subject to change. But here's where I'm at for the moment. In my current draft, I'm putting as much of my budget as possible into the starting 11, and therefore not leaving much to be desired on the bench. So, for now, the 4 budget enablers in my team consist of David Button of Brighton as a backup 4 million goalkeeper, Martin Kelly of Palace and Diego Rico as my 2 bargain bin defenders, and up front, my 3rd striker is currently Mason Greenwood at the lowest price point of 4.5 million. Assuming that I start the season with these, obviously they'll be reduced to my bench pretty much every game week. However, at their price points, they are looking like some of the best options out there, because at 4 million, Rico and Kelly do have a chance of getting some minutes, as does Greenwood up front for United. A small chance of course, but they're looking more likely to play than other players in this price range. So, with the cheapest options available occupying my bench, that leaves me with 83.5 million to spend on the starting 11. Since the game launched, for me there's 2 players that my squad has consistently been built around, and that's the 2 midfield powerhouses Raheem Sterling and Mohamed Salah. I had it in my mind to own these players next season, and then once the pairs' fixtures got released, it all the more solidified them in my side. With lots of uncertainty surrounding my final Game Week 1 team, I'd say these 2 are the most nailed on to be there come the deadline. With Salah, it was always going to be a case of choosing him or teammate Sadio Mane. But with the Egyptian only being £1 million extra in this year's game, that extra 1 million feels like a no-brainer. The pair may have scored an equal amount of goals last season, but Mohamed Salah provided 9 more FPL assists. He should also be on penalties when Milner's not involved, and in terms of underlying stats, Salah far outweighs Mane in that department, where last season he took more shots both on and off target, more shots both in and outside of the box, and he also made more key passes and created more big chances. It's also worth noting that Sadio Mane has the AFCON final on the 19th, so a very short break for him before Game Week 1, and this, on top of everything else, makes Salah seem like the safer bet for now. As for Sterling, it's a similar toss-up between him and FPL royalty Sergio Aguero. This one for me is far more of a headache, and in a perfect world I'd love to own both, but at 12 million apiece that is proving a very difficult task. They are very hard to separate, however Sterling has outscored Aguero in the last 2 FPL seasons, and in particular last season, whenever Aguero bagged a big score, Sterling often ended up going bigger. As a midfielder, he also gets the extra point for a goal and for a clean sheet, and will arguably see more playing time than the Argentine this season. So for now, Sterling takes it for me, but as we should know in FPL, Aguero can never be overlooked, and he's always the player that I fear most when not owning him. The only other 2 players who look fairly nailed into my Game Week 1 team is the Liverpool defensive double-up of Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold. Granted, they do come in at a large 7 million apiece, but these 2 played so far up the pitch last season, you're essentially investing in 2 midfielders. And with them being so heavily involved in attacks, it greatly increases their appeal and makes 7 million seem like a snip. Andy Robertson provided an exceptional 12 assists from defence last season, with Alexander-Arnold producing 13, making them the 5th and 4th highest assisters in the entire game last year. With Liverpool's impressive defensive record last season, when owning these 2, it feels like you have 2 bites of the cherry to get points from them in FPL. If they don't get the clean sheet, they may get the attacking returns and vice versa. A big chunk of the budget, but worth it I think over the long term. The last of my premium players goes to Manchester City stalwart Aymeric Laporte. This guy was a constant source of frustration for me last season, as stupidly I didn't own him anywhere near enough, and he then continued to punish me throughout. I'm still not completely sold on spending 6.5 million on him, but the luxury of Laporte is that guarantee of starts under Pep Guardiola, as even though Kyle Walker, John Stones and Zinchenko have more appealing prices, they're always under that slight threat of rotation. Due to their incredible ability to retain possession, Man City very rarely give away chances, and this resulted in them keeping 20 clean sheets last year. Because of this, it feels essential to own at least one Man City defender. I just wish I could go for one of the more affordable players. So, with so much of my budget spent on these 5 players, this is where I need to make some sacrifices. And rather than being able to afford the likes of Kane, Aguero, Aubameyang, etc., it's now about finding the value. One player I'm expecting to provide some excellent value this season, as he normally does, is Mr. Reliable Gylfi Sigurdsson. The Icelandic midfielder may not be the most explosive of picks, but he's a player I like to think of as a long-term point accumulator. In 4 of the last 5 seasons, he's managed to return over 150 points, and surprisingly, last season was actually his best FPL return of the lot, which kind of feels like he went about his business fairly quietly last year. Finishing the season on 182 points, with 13 goals and 6 assists, Sigurdsson ended up as the 5th highest scoring midfielder last season, behind only Salah, Sterling, Hazard and Mane. So great company to be in there, and for a much more budget-friendly price. He should also be on penalties, and Everton have been gifted a very nice opening set of fixtures, so for 8 million I'm finding it very hard to go without him. The way my draft is currently built, it means going pretty light up front, so for now it's the 2 6.5 million options Jota and King who take the reins. With Jota, he's a player that I expect to kick on from his exceptional second half to last season. He didn't get off to the best of starts, but once Nuno changed tactics and then deployed Jota up front alongside Jimenez in a 3-5-2, this is where he really flourished, hence his reclassification from a midfielder to a forward in this year's FPL game. Once they made that tactical switch, Jota and Jimenez are very tough to separate from a stat point of view. From Gameweek 20 onwards, Jota racked up 91 points with 7 goals and 5 assists, whilst Jimenez got 96 points with 8 goals and 4 assists, so very similar outputs. The difference, however, is that Jota is that £1 million cheaper, and in FPL, that extra 1 million can often go a long way. As for Joshua King, well, he's not quite as exciting as owning Callum Wilson, but with my arch nemesis being valued at 8 million this season, I'm finding it very hard to find that extra 1.5 million in cash. To be fair, Joshua King only scored 2 goals less than Wilson last season and finished just 27 points behind his strike partner, which isn't bad for a £1.5 million saving. The bad news is though that Wilson did play significantly less minutes than King, and Wilson's 12 assists far outshines King's who got just 3. It's yet to be seen who will provide more value between these two, but given Bournemouth's opening fixtures, where they play Sheffield United and Aston Villa back-to-back, it feels almost essential to go into these games with at least one of them. In goal, I'd love to opt for a premium and reliable goalkeeper like Ederson at 6 million. However, that doesn't leave me with anywhere near enough for the final 2 midfielders, so Matt Ryan of Brighton is currently my cheap 4.5 million placeholder. At 4.5, there's not exactly an array of inspiring goalkeeping options, but Brighton do play 3 of their opening 5 fixtures at home, against West Ham, Southampton and Burnley, so some decent fixtures there on paper. By going cheap in goal though, that does allow me to strengthen my midfield slightly, and it's these last 2 midfielders that I keep changing my mind on. With 13 million left to spend, there's a few pairings that I quite like the look of. Jack Grealish and Wilfried Zaha is one pairing, El Ghazi and Ryan Fraser is another, but the pairing I'm currently settled on is Zaha and Ayoze Perez, and unfortunately they come in at 13.5, therefore £500,000 more than I have left in the bank. This means I'm going to have to find that 0.5 million from somewhere, and dropping Aymeric Laporte to a 6 million defender may have to be the way to go. At 6 million, Kyle Walker and Luka Digne are both potential options, or for 5.5 do I take the gamble on Zinchenko being first choice at left back? Especially with Mendy lacking fitness, Fabian Delph signing for Everton, and Angelino perhaps needing a bit more time to settle. The bonus with Zinchenko, should it pay off, is that he also releases an extra 0.5 million, which I could use to improve my bench options. So that's where I'm currently at with my FPL draft heading into the new season, and this is how my side would hypothetically line up if I continue with this team. With Liverpool kicking off the season at home to Norwich, Mo Salah is no doubt set to be an extremely popular captain choice, so even this early on he's looking pretty nailed as my Game Week 1 captain. If you enjoyed the video, be sure as always to drop a like and get subscribed to FPL TV. With 3 weeks to go until the season starts, I'll likely upload a weekly update of any changes I make to this squad before Game Week 1. FPL responsibly, and I'll catch you all very soon.